Okay, well, I've got you here first. An announcement. This is going to be the last video about speech, I think. It's just a couple of minor details to wrap up. The next video is going to be reviewing the retrieval exercise and coding for week 10. But while I've got you here, those of you who see this video and if you want to spread the word, I want to clarify any confusion about attendance. I am going to schedule WebEx sessions live for our section. I'm probably going to schedule it for about 10 o'clock Friday morning. Again, there's going to be additional material posted tomorrow and Thursday, right, that I want you to review before we meet. And then Friday morning, probably from 10 to 12, we'll see how long it goes. Since you will have already had a chance to digest material that's been posted, we don't need to take the full 3 hours, so take an extra hour in the morning to do your thing, right? You'll see a link to my WebEx room. We'll get this all settled between now and then. And as long as you're signed in at the start of that live session, you're going to be counted as present. You do not need to send me summaries of all of the videos I'm posting. That's only for people who actually are not capable of doing any kind of online work at all. So again, keep following the videos. By now you're used to how to track those, right? And keep an eye out for a live session. And please be available Friday morning when we would have met anyways. If you have kids, that's fine. If you have dogs running around like I do, that's fine. Right, we ask everybody who's on WebEx Live to mute your microphone, right, unless you're participating. So just, again, if you're able to log on to the WebEx and you're logged on at the beginning of those sessions, you're going to be counted as present. Obviously, look, we all in this situation have got to trust one another to do what's right. So I trust that when you log into one of those sessions that you're not going to log back out without participating and waiting for the session to end, right? So that's how we're going to do it. Now, there are, in your book, you know, your author asks, is some speech less protected than other speech? And the answer is yes. We've talked about the most protected kind of speech. Political, religious, philosophical speech is the most protected kind of speech. There are two kinds of speech that are a little bit less protected than other kinds of speech, right? But we've also talked about unprotected speech. We're not talking about that. We're talking about speech that is protected, right, but speech that is not as protected as political, philosophical, religious type of speech. Those two types of speech are one, commercial advertising, and two, pornography, porn shops, smut shops really, that are selling material, right, or displaying material that, although it's pornographic, has not reached the level of obscene. And again, make sure you're clear about that distinction between obscenity and pornography. First, advertising. Because the interest underlying most advertising is pecuniary, or making money, profit, courts don't view that as valuable as other types of speech, right, and thought. So here's the way that works. Instead of, and again, you know, the issue spotting, it's kind of right there, right? You see some government regulation of advertising, right? That's called commercial speech. Advertising, that's what it has to be. So when the government is regulating advertising, what you have to do is apply what's called the Central Hudson test. And instead of, you know, how does this work in most cases, right? Obviously, you've got some of the same rules, right? You can do reasonable time, place, manner restrictions. You can ban unprotected speech and all that. But basically, what the courts have said is when in the normal case, when the government runs out of excuses, right, we apply strict scrutiny. With advertising, because it is a lesser type of communication, lesser type of idea, we are not going to apply strict scrutiny. We're going to apply something a little bit less, sort of an intermediate scrutiny type of a test. Let me run through this. Some threshold questions when you see the government regulating advertising. Number one, if the advertising is not truthful, or it's not for a legal service or product, then it's not protected at all, right? If it's for an illegal service or product, right? I mean, people, you know, advertising the price of illegal drugs or something like that, or if the advertising is misleading, right? If it's not true, you can throw that in the pile with unprotected speech. There is no protection for either untruthful advertising or for advertising for illegal products or services. So number one, if you get past that, then you apply the Central Hudson test. That's just that simple. And you're getting used to this by now, right? How to apply these different levels of scrutiny. Central Hudson, like I said, is essentially an intermediate scrutiny type test. The government would have to show not that there's a compelling interest, but rather that there is an important interest at stake. Or significant or substantial, right? You know, those are all synonymous, right? So that's the interest. On the means side, instead of showing narrowly tailored, what the exact language from Central Hudson, right, is that the restriction on advertising must directly advance the government's interest and must be no more, right, intrusive, no broader than is necessary. That sounds a little bit like narrowly tailored, but it doesn't say narrowly tailored, and courts apply that very much like an intermediate scrutiny type of a standard. So to repeat, when it's commercial speech, when you see the government messing around with advertising, right, check, is it for a legal activity or service? Is it truthful, right? If it's legal and truthful, it's protected, but not as protected, right, as other speech. So then you would apply the Central Hudson standard, which is an intermediate type scrutiny. Is there a significant, substantial / important government interest? And is that interest directly advanced by the means chosen, which again should be no more intrusive or no broader than is necessary. So that's commercial speech. Pornography, porn shops. Here's the fact pattern. You see, and this is going to be a local government, right? Because the zoning decisions happen at the local level. You see a local zoning board, a city or a municipality of some kind, saying that you can sell porn in the city, but you can't sell porn there. If you want to sell porn, you have to go over there, right? Okay, now you should be asking yourself, what kind of issue is that? If I'm the government telling somebody you can sell it, but not there, you have to go somewhere else, what kind of restriction is that? Pause the video if you need to and think about it. Okay, you're back, good. If you said time, place, matter restriction, you're right. It's a place restriction, right? So when you see these zoning board decisions that are zoning porn shops to certain parts of town, which you see everywhere across the country, you apply the time, place, manner test. And here's how that works. First of all, courts regard those ordinance or those zoning decisions as content neutral, because they say it's not about banning the smut, right? It's not about the message or the content of the speech. Now, this is a little bit of a stretch, but this is what courts say. They say instead what it's about is stopping crime, prostitution, diminution of property value, those types of things. And those are content neutral interests for a zoning board. Those are also important interests, right, for a zoning board. So now we're through both of the first two elements. It's a content neutral interest, it's an important interest. Banning smut shops from certain neighborhoods, right, is certainly a good way, right, to protect property values and prevent the spread of blight and crime in certain areas. So you also meet element 3, right, that there's narrowly tailored, quote unquote, narrowly tailored means. Finally, and here's the sticking point, in most cases, in most time, place, manner cases, you need ample alternative channels of communication. When it comes to zoning smut shops, porn shops, the courts have said we don't need ample alternative channels, we only need reasonable alternative channels. Know that term, reasonable alternative channels. And courts apply reasonable alternative channels for porn shops to be anywhere at all remaining in the jurisdiction. So you can zone a porn shop, right, as you see in one of the cases you read, to next to an oil tank farm and a sewage treatment plant, right? If there's anywhere left for the, sorry, there's Laney again. If there's anywhere left, she just got a new phone, by the way. If there's anywhere left for the smut shop, the porn theater, right, that is going to be interpreted as reasonable alternative channels. So what does that mean? A zoning board, you can zone a porn shop or porn theater to the outer skirt, right, to the outskirts, the outer boundaries of the city. You may not zone them completely out. Okay, so that's how it works for the time, place, manner test for pornography. So to review, there are two types of speech that are a little bit less protected than other types of speech, the closely related advertising and pornography. Advertising, you apply the Central Hudson. Pornography, the only way you're going to be tested on that is to see a zoning decision that moves a porn shop. When you see that, you apply the time, place, manner test. You change the word ample to the word reasonable. And as long as there's any place left in the jurisdiction for the porn shop or the theater, that you're going to be good to go. So that's the last two minor points that we had to cover under free speech. The next video, which should probably be up tomorrow, Wednesday, is going to be just a couple of exercises, and then we'll be done with finally done with week 10 material. It's taken a long time for me to get this stuff processed. Then we'll get to week 11 and proceed the way that we've been talking about. Stay safe, and we'll see you soon.